Hey guys, in today's video I am showing a speed paint of me sketching and painting Rebecca from Cyberpunk. I actually drew this about maybe 2 months ago. I wanted to hop on the trend and actually post a video that was trending at the time. Cyberpunk is an amazing anime, and for a while there it was on everyone's feed and everything. I was like, I'm gonna be an amazing YouTuber and post something that is trending, and then I wait 2 to 3 months and then I'm gonna post it. So talking about Rebecca, I think she's one of the most interesting, if not the most dynamic character in the show. And this is coming from someone who really loves to write and read. I feel like her character was really well done. She's like this very tiny character with a super huge personality. And I think it's really interesting when a character has these contradictions within their personality. It adds for a lot of realism because, believe it or not, we all are contradictions. Our personalities consist of hot and cold. Sometimes you want to be left alone, but then you're really lonely. I love when characters in anime and movies and TV shows, I love when they have these really big faults and flaws that make them memorable. And in this case, I think Rebecca, she has a very short fuse. She's very quickly angered, and it's really interesting because you wouldn't expect a pretty cute little thing to open their mouth and then it's rage or cussing. And so I really enjoy her character. Not only that, but towards the end, she was actually very compassionate. And that's honestly something I wasn't necessarily expecting from her. Also, I think her character design is really cool. I love how her neck has this green tattoo on it that looks kind of like a jack-o'-lantern. It's 2 X's and a creepy smile. And then that's green while her eyes are red. And I feel like her design was really well thought of. I really struggled with drawing the jacket. Perspective can be a really rough thing for me, but I'm glad I didn't give up on it because I think the jacket kind of adds to her personality. This super tiny little girl wearing a really big jacket. I think it looks great. I love designs like that. I think my sketches always have so much more personality than when I color them. So as I'm voicing over this, I'm really enjoying the look of the sketch. And I wonder how I can defeat this in the future. How do I keep that life in the painting while also making the painting very polished? Because I can paint really messily, and have it outside the lines and scribbly and kind of like watercolor. I think that's really energetic and so beautiful. But how do I keep the energy if I want it to be a very polished, rendered, piece of art? I have to learn that one day because I hate losing the life of my drawing when I start adding color. One thing that I think really helps me when I draw is having the navigator open, as you can see in the corner, where it shows the canvas, but a lot smaller. Ever since I've kept that open, I think it's been helping me a lot because I can see if there's clarity even when the image is small. And I've heard a lot of professionals talk about how if you can read something that's really small and understand what's happening, it's definitely going to look correct when it's larger. And so I've always been getting into the habit of adding the navigator on the side. I think it's even more important to have it up during coloring, so you can make sure that your colors are separating the shapes you want them to properly, even at a small scale. And it really helps that like Rebecca's character design has these complementary colors, so next to each other you can definitely tell that they're like two different colors. This is my first time recording something with a camera rather than on the program. So I had to like make my room really dark, or else there was like reflections everywhere. I think it worked out though. It's a little weird how dark it is, but I mean you can see the art, so I guess that's a plus. For a little while, I was kind of worried about the symmetry in her face. How she has those two, they're not tattoos, but like augmentations, like cybernetics under her eyes. For a while there, I was like, ugh, what if I can't make them look like they're the same, because they are the same. And I think I struggle with it a little bit when painting. Especially because her face is kind of like in the 3/4 view. I was wondering how I would wrap it around her cheek properly with the perspective. For some reason, I think the chin, when I draw, the slightest like curve that I add or remove changes the entire face. It's so crazy. The chin has so much of an impact over the face, but like depending on how round or sharp I leave it, it just changes everything. It's really interesting. I've also been trying to get into the practice of leaving my canvas zoomed out, and it has helped me a ton. I feel a lot more confident with my control if I leave the canvas zoomed out, because in reality, no one's gonna be looking at your painting zoomed in super close. So when I leave it zoomed out, I can have imperfect strokes, and it's okay because this is how the viewer is going to be seeing it. I don't have to worry about necessarily zooming in too much. I only like to zoom in when I'm working on the eyes or like details on the face. I really love the teal in her hair. I think it's such a beautiful like green blue, and I think it complements her design really well. how she has like really red eyes and then this more muted type of green as hair. It's not like neon green, but it's like a calmer green. And I think that balances really well with her bright, saturated red eyes. Whenever I paint, I always have this urge to just merge everything on one layer. And I try to like hold myself off, but a lot of times I'll just do it. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't merge. But that is something that's a part of my own process, is eventually merging everything on one layer and then painting on it cohesively. But it can really bite me in the butt because a lot of times I'll want to just shade the face separately and I can't make a clipping mask to the face because I already merged it into one layer with everything else. But I'm like so impatient when it comes to drawing. So I'm like my own worst enemy, making things harder for myself when it doesn't have to be. During this painting, I think I was very stiff. At the end of it, some of the shading comes off as very like abrupt and almost like I was just unsure, like under her nose and stuff, and her lips. It's not as like painterly or smudgy as I think I wanted it to be, and I think that just goes along with my impatience of really wanting to see the piece being finished, so I kind of like smack it on there and I really enjoyed smudging the hair though. I think the hair was probably my favorite part of the piece because I could just take a really smudgy brush and shade in like big triangular shapes and everything. It's so calming to do hair. It's kind of therapeutic, honestly. I think one thing I need to work on is making sure my values are dark enough and not being scared to make them darker. Lighting has always been a really big challenge for me. There are things that I know, like, a direct light will cast harsher shadows the closer it is. And if it's a really diffuse light from far away, you'll get, soft, round shadows and stuff like that. But for some reason, I'm always really timid to draw in harsh, dark shadows. I feel like my work would really benefit if I did that though. It's like another thing that I'm uncertain about. And you can kind of see it in the art that I was nervous or unsure what I was doing. A lot of times throughout this video, my knee like bumps my desk and my camera just like shakes very aggressively. I feel like her nostril looks a little weird. Like almost as if it's maybe not the right perspective. But during the time, I thought it looked right, so I just went with it. I feel like when I'm doing my hair, I'm almost developing my own style because I really love smudging the hair and cutting shapes out of it with the eraser and just kind of like having these floating slices of paint that aren't even connected to the hair. And I even did it on the jacket where some of the jacket is just cut off and floating as like a line. I don't know why, but that looks really aesthetic to me, and I just love chopping and slicing pieces off. And when you do it with the hair, I think it almost looks like a really thin piece of hair. And I don't know, I just love that look, and I think it's something I developed just on my own, which I'm kind of proud of. But then again, some people might see that as being like very messy. Eventually, I had to erase her face markings because I had to properly shade underneath it, and I couldn't do that with the markings over top. And somewhere along the way, I realized that I was being way too timid with my shading and that the darks just weren't dark enough, and I'm really glad I caught that and was able to like go in and darken up her hoodie on the inside where not a lot of light would be hitting in the first place. I think my favorite thing about this piece is probably her headgear and how I managed to properly draw it going around the head, and how the piece far away tilts and gets narrower as it's tilting off her head. Perspective perspective and lighting are like my two worst enemies, and I hope to conquer them one day. Excuse me. But the eyes were actually a pretty big challenge for me because they're not normal eyes. She has like these green circles. Going back to the anime, I think, spoiler free, of course, don't worry. I think that one of my favorite parts about the anime is just how real everything is. They don't sugarcoat. It's very realistic with how death is a part of the theme. There's a lot of death, whether it be random characters or some of the main casts. And it's really, I don't know, is that a spoiler? I don't feel like that's a spoiler because it's just a dark show and you don't see much of that anymore, or sometimes it's too dark, which maybe this was a little bit too dark, but it was done in a way that just felt real. Looking back on this piece, I really hate how I didn't shade the face darker. I was definitely really timid about it, and I definitely didn't have a light source. I just kind of very generically shaded everything. Yeah, her lips and her nose don't really follow the right perspective of the face. I guess at the end of the day, I'm glad I can pick that out and know that I did something wrong. I think it's always good when you can find the mistakes in your art and then work to fix it in your next piece. Another thing that was really amazing about the show was the music. I have so much of the songs stuck in my head. They were so catchy. 10 out of 10. Definitely listen to the playlist after the anime was over. But yeah, this is my first really long video. Wasn't really sure what to talk about. I don't have a lot to talk about. My life is not very interesting. But that is about it. Thank you if you got this far into the video. I really appreciate it. Until next time, bye.